You're in the Business Insurance Zone with me, Steve Savant, national insurance columnist and financial color commentator. And today on The Biz, are we playing Russian roulette with our retirement monies and insurance products? It's all part of our investment risk management series here on The Biz.
When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant. We're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial advisors right here in Fountain Hills, Arizona. And I have to tell you, today we're going to do something that's really off our normal track, the traffic that we normally push out on the web. We're going to be talking about a very interesting subject. We're calling this is our investment risk management series. And with me today, as our special guest today and all this week, Mark Langerman. Hey Mark, how you doing?
Good. Good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you here. He's with Empowerment Financial Group, and this is unique when you think about it because Mark is a registered investment advisor.
We're a registered investment advisory firm, correct.
And I really like the idea of what happens when a guy's regular practice goes national. And your practice kind of went in a really big place here because you're involved in a very unique idea. But before we get into your idea, I want to do a small, quick redux on the Olympics. You know, it just happened a couple weeks ago, and we were looking at these, and I'm looking at these numbers. There's 196 countries in the world, and 85 of those countries that were there, not all 196 sent representatives, but about 85 countries, somebody medaled in that country. And let me tell you this, if you medaled in some obscure country and you're the only medal winner, you are probably treated like a hero and a god. I mean, think about that.
Absolutely.
You're a rock star.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at this, remember at the front end of the Olympics, they were concerned about security.
Right.
And even Romney kind of got himself a little bit on the sideways on that issue. And they were concerned because a lot of the countries that are listed as participants in the Olympics are also just happen to be listed on the United States Terror Watch, which I found to be unbelievable. So no wonder London had to go into high security tactics, strategies to protect everybody. Now, just to give you a kind of a redux, remember the United States won. We pulled 104 medals. Once again, we were tops. China, think about this, and we're little. We're a small country compared to China. I mean, China's what, 10 times bigger than we are? And they pulled 88 medals. Russia pulled another 82, but the surprise to me was the host company. Great Britain probably did the best they've ever done, maybe because they were at home, home field advantage is always good. I like all that. But all these other countries that are there, I mean, when you look at the size of the globe and the 85 countries that medaled, and now we're starting to see what I would call classified, probably third world countries, playing and participating at the level. I mean, that is really amazing. The world is getting smaller. People are you're looking at countries that were obscure, they're coming to the table, and anybody that won a bronze medal, and in fact, actually, I was looking at Saudi Arabia, they had one medal, but that medal was revered. I mean, think about it. That's how heavy it is. Now, we're talking about this list. Now, this warning travel list I'm looking at, there's some bad boy countries on this.
There's some, and there's probably should be a few more, to be honest with you.
Well, we'll let you add the mark list.
Okay, fair enough.
We'll put the mark list on there.
Right.
I'm looking at some of these, and these are pretty big ones. I mean, like, of course, North Korea, of course, the Sudan, Pakistan, Colombia, the Niger, Chad, Burundi, Iran, of course, Algeria, Syria. I mean, think about this. If you're traveling to Syria, right? I mean, nobody's traveling to Syria, and the food. I love tabbouleh, but nobody's traveling to Syria for tabbouleh.
I can't imagine. Their tourism business, I'm sure, is down. I
want to talk about one thing though that's interesting. I looked at our index products.
Right.
Now this is our S&P index that we use for life insurance, and our S&P that we use for annuity indexing.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, I was looking at the iShares with the MSCI ACWI index, which has not only developed countries, people that we would know, but it also has emerging markets. However, some of these emerging market companies or countries are also on the terror watch list.
Right.
Now see, that's kind of surprising because I think if most people said, gee, Steve, I don't know if I want to be in funds where there might be issues like terrorism and so forth, and we would be indirectly supporting them, right?
Correct.
And I think that would be an issue. So we started looking at this a couple weeks ago. When we met you, we said, hey, I wonder how many of our indexing products, and remember, this has nothing to do with variable annuity and variable life because that's all over the board.
Right.
So people are becoming conscious about this issue and they don't want to participate in those things and they're trying to become aware. And we're going to be spending all this week looking at that. And believe it or not, I just got the second quarter report 2012 on annuity purchases, and 90% of this is going between the fixed account and the S&P 500.
Right.
You can see this chart. Nobody's playing in the emerging markets right now. It's just too dangerous, and the cost for our investors is just too great to expose it to them. So we're looking at that. Everybody that wanted to go to the Olympics that were applying for life insurance had to go through a gauntlet. And if you've never had a client on the travel list,
right,
and you're trying to do life insurance at the same time, they're going to ask you this famous question: are you traveling for the next 2 years? And where are you traveling?
And they're trying to do, it's risk management. It's all about risk management, absolutely.
And as you know, they have broken this down into 5 categories.
Right.
The worst category, category E, and I don't think it stands for excellent.
Right.
Okay. E has all the countries where if you travel on that, you will be declined automatically.
Period.
I've noticed that the list that carriers carry and the watch list by the State Department is almost the same. So they're protecting. They know that if you go there and you're exposed to that, I mean, Americans are exposed to these things.
They're not only exposed to them. I mean, it's a risk that a lot of people don't consider. And insurance companies typically manage their portfolios in a smart way. That's the it's the whole point of their business. So it doesn't surprise me at all that the U.S. State Department's list of countries that risky countries and insurance companies' lists of risky countries overlap.
Right, and when I look at it, that's a huge consideration for these carriers. And so when we were sending people over to watch the London games, they said, hey, it's only England. Yeah, but who else is going to be there?
Right, exactly.
When we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about what Mark's into, not only as a regular registered investment advisor, but this whole idea that he got into about terror-free risk management. We'll be right back right after this break.
You're listening to the insurance industry's #1 resource for products, planning ideas, carrier information, and interviews you can use. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Companies in our business are always touting service, products, and underwriting. And we do that too. But here's the difference. Now enter the world of the elite producer with a value package that cuts us out of the pack. A BD that approves social media marketing of non-FINRA products and doesn't take an override. With the best competition desk in the industry, and for our loyal producers, a true group health plan. No one offers that. Brokers Alliance does.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant. With me is Mark Langerman. We're talking about terror-free risk investing. I mean, we're trying to come to this place. I mean, after the first segment, I kind of laid out the security issues of London and so forth. I was surprised at the stats off your website, I have to tell you.
All right,
it took me back.
Let's talk about them.
Well, according to this, over 10% of the S&P 500, which is 1.4 trillion of the market cap, is considered to be in terror-infected stocks.
Right.
I mean, talk about that. I mean, that blew my mind.
Well, we like to use the word terror-infected because it's really that. It surprises most people, Steve, that that you're allowed to do business. U.S. companies are allowed to do business still with "quote unquote" state sponsors of terrorism.
Well, I thought Iran was off the table.
In what respect?
Well, I thought the State Department said we couldn't do business with Iran.
Right, you can't. However, there's nuances. There's foreign subsidiaries. Okay, things along those lines. There's really, that's what we're talking about. There are humanitarian issues that some people label as humanitarian. The State Department may actually define as humanitarian, but we may not. So really what we do is try and help clients manage global security risk, which is, I think, the term that you were trying to get at. And the State Department in SEC in 2004 basically defined global security risk as the risk to share value, shareholder value, stock price, that a company or the risk that a company exposes their shareholders to by doing business in countries that are state sponsors of terrorism. Okay, because they're going to face international sanctions typically. They're going to have internal strife. They're going to have political unrest a lot of times. Tourism's going to suffer. Like you said earlier, I can't imagine a lot of people are traveling to Syria right now on tourist visas. So think about all the public companies that are doing business. They have operations in and with Syria in the last year. I haven't looked at all of the data, but their revenues are most likely down and maybe even in a significant way. So what we're trying to do really is inform investors that here's a risk that no one else is talking to you about. Let's talk about it, hope you understand it. And there's in addition to it being a risk, the flip side of it is it's a very patriotic cause, because what we're doing is we're trying to eliminate really foreign investment and foreign support for terrorist regimes. And by investing quote unquote terror free, that's how we accomplish the goal.
When I think about, when we're talking about terror free, I mean, we are now parsing the investor who has a conscience. I mean, we're really parsing this. I mean, we have the green movement.
Right.
So people are investing in mutual funds that only do green. They don't do oil. They're into solar. Everything that's green, they want to invest in green because that's their belief system, and they want that to correlate with their investment posture.
Right.
Okay, so I get that. And there's people that are, I call them the viceless funds, right? These are the funds where the guy says, I don't want any tobacco in there. I don't want any alcohol in there. I don't want gambling stocks in there. I just have a certain way of going about it. In fact, actually, the Roman Catholic Church has their Ave Maria fund. So it's going to be very to their beliefs. It's tailored. So, and then we have funds that are tailored to even women in corporate management. So here we're going to a whole nother level of parsing, and it's really a good idea because I think people understand this. We have troops in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I don't want to be participating with countries that are actually beneath the ground funding terrorists that would hurt our troops.
Well, and it's not just beneath the ground. And we're finding most people, again, most people aren't aware. Like you and I, before we find out about this, we say, wow, it's illegal. There's, you know, we're not selling airplane parts. We're not helping them build refineries. We're, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then we start to dig a little bit below the surface, and we find out that we are. And the, you know, so there's direct involvement. And it was about 2 years ago, General Petraeus, David Petraeus, who was commanding that theater then, was testifying before Congress and talked about the fact that they estimate at least 50% of the insurgent attacks against U.S. soldiers and U.S. interests were supported by Iran at the time. Okay, so we are in effect directly at war in that respect. They're fighting our guys, like you said, our young men and women who are serving in uniform, and here we are. Without, most people aren't aware again, but now we're making them aware that, look, you can do something about it. That's one of the things that helped us get going on this about 5 years ago. I was attending a symposium in Washington, D.C., and sat through 2 breakout sessions with congressmen and some private industry people, and they were talking about a movement to help states, help support states or interest states in divesting their portfolios, their pension funds, and so on and so forth. You know, that's the biggest pool of assets in this country, state pension funds, government funds, et cetera. And to have them divest from doing business in Iran's oil sector. And the point being that if we can have these foreign companies, these countries need Western support to run their economies, and then because it's very expensive to run terror networks and nuclear programs and things along those lines, right? True. So if we can limit their access to capital and resources, we can help put the squeeze on them and hopefully, by having these companies pull out, and hopefully force them then to change change the way they govern and change their attitudes towards us. It's a way to fight the war on terror without firing a single shot.
Well, we want to be able to be fully informed as a consumer and an investor, and we are pro-American. If you want to watch this show and all our shows, just hop out to www.brokersalliance.com, and we'll continue our entire series all this week. That's the Buzz on the Biz.
The Biz is brought to you by Brokers Alliance, a national leader in insurance products, support services, and educational workshops. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.